Welcome to HortTube, where we talk all things gardening. My name is Jim Putnam, and this is a Compacta Holly. This is Compacta Holly, a very common evergreen shrub that's planted on most new homes on the foundations. Compacta Hollies can reach 4 to 6 feet in height and 4 to 6 feet in width. They grow as absolutely perfect round balls and can be pruned as frequently as you need to keep them probably whatever size you want. Anywhere between 3 to 6 feet in height and 3 to 6 feet in width would be fine. A lot of people mistake these for boxwoods. Most of the builders, especially in the southeast United States, use these on the foundations, and everybody calls them my boxwoods, but really it's a type of Japanese holly. It's very cheap typically at the nurseries, so that's why it's used so frequently. But it is a great plant. It's industrial, and it can be maintained as a perfect little round ball with very little maintenance. Compacta Hollies are hardy in zone 6 to 9. Probably in zone 6 you'd want to keep it as a foundation plant. Most of these are used as foundation plants anyway, but you probably wouldn't want it in any kind of open space. Most of these leafy evergreens can have an issue with the winter winds drying the top of the plant out, actually freezing the top of the plant and freezing the roots enough where it can't supply water to itself, and it actually dies from a lack of water in the wintertime, which seems unusual, but that's what happens to plants when they get too cold and they're leafy evergreens like this. Compacta Holly has a moderate growth rate. We might see 6 inches a year in the ground on these. In the nursery, we can probably get almost a foot out of these. We can push these with fertilizer quite a bit. Compacta Hollies and most Japanese hollies can take sun or light shade. They wouldn't want to be in the deep shade, but if you were getting an hour or two of direct sunlight during the day, that would probably be adequate. All the way up to full sun would be fine. In terms of usage of Compacta Holly, most of the time you're going to see this as a foundation plant. If you have a low foundation, windows that are 3 foot up, this is probably not the best choice. You'll see it on virtually every foundation on every new house, but I would quickly, if I bought a house that had these on the foundation and when my windows were low, my house was maybe built on slab, or I had a low front porch, I'd probably quickly move these out to the edge of the property and use them as a screening plant, or somewhere where they can be allowed to get full height, or move them to the corner where you can allow them to get 6 feet in height. Otherwise, you're going to be doing a lot of pruning on this plant. You probably want to switch like Soft Touch or Hellerai if you like the look of this, the boxwood look, or switch to boxwoods. We could buy boxwoods. They're usually quite a bit more expensive though. Compacta Holly will get a very insignificant small white flower occasionally. I don't see it every year, but some years we will see them along the stems. In terms of planting Compacta Hollies, you're going to want to mix in some pine bark soil conditioner if you have heavy clay soils, or the peat moss, cow manure, compost. If you have sandier soils, we're going to want to regulate the moisture on these. We don't want them too wet, but we never want these to completely dry out. They're actually not the most drought tolerant plants, and usually on a foundation you don't find that out, because usually you're right around your foundation stays moist. But if these become very dry, they will start to, you'll see a branch at the time die on these pretty quickly. You want to make sure you break the roots up on these. This one's not rooted into the pot well enough for me to flip it out and give you an example. But normally when you pull these out, if they're, sometimes you'll buy them twice the height of this in a 3-gallon pot, like this, and the roots will be matted on one another. You need to get in there and pull those apart, or come around and cut them a few times. I think what happens to these in the future, I'll see a branch at the time die on these Compacta Hollies frequently. I think the builder's landscaper puts them in, doesn't break those roots up. They wrap around one another, and 4 or 5 years later, they actually start to choke out one another. And that would be why one branch would die on this plant at the time, because the roots that supplied that branch are dying off. Like pretty much all shrubs, we're going to want to elevate them above the existing soil a little bit. So dig the hole like you're going to plant this entire root ball in the ground. Put some of that loose soil mixture with your soil amendments and your existing soil at the base of the hole. Set this plant in there so it's sitting up about that much. Pull your soil up to the edge of it, and then lightly mulch it with pine straw or hardwood bark or whatever it is you use for mulch. And don't cover anything that's not covered on it when you purchase it. That's a very important part of this. If it's abnormally dry, this is a plant you probably will want to address with a water hose. They are not very good at letting you know they're dry. They don't wilt or anything. So they'll just start dropping leaves or losing limbs pretty quickly. So, midsummer, especially in 100-degree weeks, you might want to address these. Just water them, saturate the soil really well. Don't do any of that little bit of water every day thing. If they need to be watered, really throw the water to them and then let them dry out again between waterings. That's kind of important. That drying process, just to let you know, that drying process is what makes a plant search for water and root out. There's this delicate balance between letting plants dry out and then letting plants get too dry, but we do want to let them dry out somewhat between waterings. In terms of fertilizing Compacta Hollies, they could probably live with it or without it. Probably wouldn't matter, but I do fertilize my hollies in the spring because you get a much richer dark green color on them, which is kind of the point of having hollies. And I'll use any kind of azalea, camellia, rhododendron fertilizer or holly tone. These are acid-loving plants in the spring. Light application then, that's all you'd need for the year. Compacta Hollies can be pruned anytime you'd like to prune them. I've said this before, I don't like to do a lot of pruning in the late fall because the plant's just going to look like that through the whole winter. But anytime spring, summer, or even early fall, I'd probably have enough time to recover. You can prune these almost as much as you want. This is probably a plant that if it ever got way bigger than you wanted it, you could probably almost cut it to the ground and have it regenerate and grow back. They're that hardy. Like all hollies, Compacta is resistant to most insect and disease problems. It's the main reason these are used. So what are you waiting for? Even you can grow the boxwood shaped Compacta Hollies. Thank you for watching, and if this video was helpful, please hit the like button and also subscribe to my channel for future videos. Also comment below with any questions you have about Compacta Hollies or any other types of hollies or leafy evergreens that you're interested in. Thank you.